At a tremendous speed, the ball sliced through the air and hit the well-stretched soccer net, lifting the green grass behind it. And it was this soccer match that the amazed little boy was watching. Since childhood, he had been watching soccer matches with interest and, together with the fans, actively supported his favorite team, loudly shouting "Goal" every time the team scored. He had a dream to become a real football player one day. And he had loving parents who were ready to support him in this. Meanwhile, the joyful players gathered around their forward to celebrate the goal with him. The star player of this team was Park Ji-suk, and it was he who tied the score, 1-1. The happy team ran across the soccer field returning to their positions, as they still had time to try to win. The boy's name was Uho-yeong, and now watching the match with his clear blue eyes, he could not contain his excitement. He wanted to become the best football player in the world more than anything else. Time passed, the broadcast ended, and a variety of dishes began to appear on the table, carefully prepared by the mother. There was everything from plain rice to tofu soup. During the meal, his father asked Uho-yeong what he dreamed of. Without waiting, the joyful boy shouted that he wanted to become a famous football player like Park Ji-suk. At first, the calm father, who was still eating and lifting the lid from a deep bowl, told him that to become a football player you need talent. But then, with a smile, he continued to tell his son that Uho-yeong definitely had this special talent. The boy's eyes lit up and his cheeks flushed with happiness, and he was sure that his father was right. Uho-yeong just shouted happily that it was true. At that moment, he believed that he would become a talented and brilliant football player in the future. In 2002, full of great hopes, Uho-yeong entered a football academy. At one of his first training sessions, he was trying his best not to give the ball to his opponents, who were pressing him from both sides. However, they quickly caught up with him and took the ball away. Then a guy from the opposing team blocked him, took over the ball, and pushed Uho-yeong away. This happened again and again. It turned out that he was no match for the children who had undergone professional training and were bigger and stronger than him. At one point, he lost his balance and fell on the fresh green grass because of the push he received. And he fell so many times until he could not get up immediately, covered in scratches and dirt. The coach saw all this and came over to him. He addressed Uho-yeong by crouching down a bit to be on the same level with him. The boy was ready to listen to the coach's advice and hoped for support from him. But the coach instead told him that he would have to train separately, pointing to a field protected by a metal net where other children who were lagging behind were. The tired boy was stunned by this news, he had not expected it. He was sent to a group of children who played poorly. At that moment, behind his back, the teams continued to play, completely ignoring the fact that one player was missing on the field, as if they did not need him at all. In the intermediate level group, he saw only a few inept kids following the simple instructions of the coaches, practicing passing and dribbling around cones with the ball. It was not what he had dreamed of doing. Looking around, Uho-yeong felt that this obstacle would be too difficult for him. It was like a tall and insurmountable wall that appeared right in front of him and blocked the way to his dream. So he simply quit the football academy out of fear of the difficulties, deciding to just run home. When he got home, he burst into tears, complaining to his parents about how unfair this world was and how much of a failure he had turned out to be. But his father patted him on the head and calmed him down. He said that everyone blooms at their own pace and that the fact that the stem grows quickly does not mean that the flower will bloom soon. In this way, he tried to explain to him that it was okay that he didn't succeed right away, because if he made an effort, he would eventually be able to reveal his talent and show everyone what he was capable of. And now, recalling his happy childhood, he wondered where he would be now if he hadn't given up then and listened to his father's advice. Would he have been able to realize his talent if he had worked hard? Would he have been able to blossom into a beautiful flower and bear fruit now? But now that 14 years had passed, it was too late for him to change anything. And he was once again sitting in a local bar with a friend. Thinking and looking into his beer mug, he suddenly cursed. This surprised his friend, who immediately asked him what had happened to him. Was he really drunk? However, on such a joyful day for his friend, he did not want to burden him with his broken dreams, so he decided to congratulate him once again on being accepted. However, he told him that he had already congratulated him on this before. But this did not upset our hero, who asked if they were celebrating today. And if so, when, if not today, should they congratulate him on this achievement? When good things happen, you have to celebrate. His friend couldn't agree more, it was indeed a time for celebration. His friend's name was Lee Yong-soo. And today they were celebrating his achievement together. After all, thanks to his hard work, Lee Yong-soo was able to attract the attention of soccer scouts and was offered a contract with a professional soccer club. By comparison, Uho-yeong worked part-time as a store clerk in a local convenience store. Comparing his life to his friends, his lips trembled with bitter regret. To hide it, he drank the entire mug of beer in one gulp. But the obsessive thoughts still did not leave his mind, he still wanted to be a professional football player. He clutched the mug tightly in his hands, mentally chastising himself for being such an idiot. He even silently cried bitterly, regretting that he had given up as a child and not held on to his dream. After calming down a bit, Uho-yeong told his friend that if he had continued to play soccer as a child, he would have been able to get into a professional team just like him. He advised him not to talk nonsense, because if that had happened, he would have already won the Ballon d'Or himself. Besides, talking about how he regrets his past choices is a waste of time because it won't change anything today. It's simply too late for him to become a professional soccer player. For as long as he could remember, Uho-yeong has always regretted his choices. Because he didn't want to just play football as a hobby. But then, the difficulties seemed invincible to him. Even after he left the soccer academy, he had many opportunities to return there later. But instead, he just kept repeating his regrets, thinking it was too late to return to professional football. Now he wanted to go back to the days when he was a kid and watched football matches on TV. And start all over again. He could not stop regretting and blaming himself for what an idiot he was. However, while he was busy beating himself up with gloomy thoughts, his friend received a message. He was invited to play soccer right now, and he invited Uho-yeong to come along. His friends needed 2 people to play 4-on-4 futsal. Looking out the window, Uho-yeong noticed that it was raining. However, he didn't seem to care at all and agreed to the offer, he loved soccer too much. And now even a heavy rainstorm couldn't stop him. Immediately after the celebration, the boys went to the soccer court. The weather was nasty outside, and it was pouring down rain, but that didn't stop them. As soon as they got there, most of them greeted them and were happy that they had finally shown up, because they had to wait for them for a relatively long time. Looking out from behind his friend, Uho-yeong was surprised to see what he saw, his eyes wide. Standing next to the company they had come to was a red-haired young man he knew, who was equally surprised. But the latter just turned away from the boy, not hiding his dislike for him and humming scathingly. Squinting, not understanding his behavior, Uho-yeong looked at Yoon Jun-ho, expecting the redhead to at least greet him, but unfortunately, this did not happen. Yoon Jun-ho was a talented player in his own right, who had amazing enough skills to win the Cha Bum-kun Football Award. This honorary award was established in the days of the legendary Korean footballer Cha Bum-kun in the Bundesliga. Some even believed that he could have become Park Ju-hyun's successor. But apparently it was not to be. He had to retire from professional football due to an injury during a match. Yoon Jun-ho and Uho-yeong have had a bad relationship since they were little. And it seems they haven't changed since then. While the rest of the company was socializing with each other, these two were too proud to forget their past disputes and continued to stubbornly ignore each other. Eventually, Lee Yong-soo was the first to express his dissatisfaction with the weather, and he raised a question that everyone else was wondering as well. Why did they have to play outside when it was pouring down? Someone from the team replied that he had heard that the indoor field was completely packed with other players, so he suggested that they should not waste time and play on the outdoor foot court before a crowd of spectators gathered there. The players divided into 2 teams and decided that only the team that scored 5 goals first would win. The rules were simple, so it didn't take long to set up, and the game started right away. The ball was quickly brought into play and sent forward. The captain of their team sent Uho-yeong to the attacking position, which he was very happy about, as it was his favorite position. He was considered a good attacker even in the children's soccer academy he used to attend with his father. As he believed, his physical and technical abilities were well above average. As soon as Uho-yeong received the ball, he quickly took the lead, going one-on-one with the goalkeeper. He was sure that he was open. He had enough experience to say that he would be able to hit the target by hitting the ball from where he was. But he was too relaxed and forgot who he was playing with. At that moment, the red-haired man took the ball away from him, closing the space in front of Uho-yeong, preventing the latter from changing the course of the situation. Still, he failed to match the experienced professional. He was left behind. Yoon Jun-ho just smiled pitifully at him, confidently driving the ball forward. Surprised by this turn of events, Uho-yeong did not immediately come to his senses, but realizing that he had been beaten by his childhood enemy, he only hissed irritably that he was a son of a bitch. This only made him more excited and he started to catch up with the rest of the players. He had always dreamed of such a scenario. A high-caliber soccer match. Splashing through the puddles, Uho-yeong took the ball from Yoon Jun-ho and promised that he would beat him today. This situation gave the boy an adrenaline rush, and he became more determined. But the opponent was better, more cunning, more experienced. He took the ball and teased Uho-yeong with a mockery. Standing in the rain, the red-haired man enjoyed dominating the boy, thinking that he was talentless. Addressing Uho-yeong, he emphasized that the boy's approach was really low. At that moment, he kicked the ball forward with all his might. He did it on purpose. Uho-yeong didn't have time to dodge the swift kick, so he was hit right on the inside of his thigh. The ball bounced sharply to the other side of the field, and all the players were quiet, feeling the situation escalating. Uho-yeong's hand instantly grabbed Yoon Jun-ho by the collar and pulled him close. The irritated guy shouted at his opponent to stop acting like a cattle. But it was all in vain. The fight was stopped in time by the players themselves, who pulled the enemies away from each other and tried to calm them down. Yoon Jun-ho did not stop cursing and continued to tell his opponent how pathetic he was and how he was not capable of anything. He wanted Uho-yeong to leave the game just like that, even ordering him to go get the ball, saying that it was the guy's fault since it bounced off his foot. The disgruntled Uho-yeong did not resist for long. He reminded him that it was Yoon Jun-ho's fault and, having broken free from the hands of the players who had separated them, called him a loser. The boy quickly began to approach the wet ball that was lying a little further away from the teams. Suddenly, the sky lit up with lightning and the rain intensified. As soon as Uho-yeong touched the ball, thunder roared and one of the bolts of lightning hit the poor boy's body, electrocuting him. The shock was so powerful that everything around him shone. Unable to endure this hellish pain, Uho-yeong squirmed and screamed at the top of his lungs. His body did not obey him, nerve impulses paralyzed his muscles. He could not believe that it was he who had been struck by lightning. Uho-yeong hadn't managed to achieve anything in this life yet, it seemed unfair to him. He could not believe that such an absurd situation had happened to him. His body, baked after the discharge, began to fall to the ground, emitting gray smoke. Time had gone on for too long. He asked himself if it was real, or if he was going to die so senselessly. However, the guy did not want to die, he was screaming at the top of his lungs to be brought back. He wanted his life back. It didn't matter who heard him, as long as they fulfilled his request. The sudden silence confused the frightened boy. When he opened his eyes, he realized that he was in a completely different place, completely empty and dark. He looked around for a long time, assessing the situation he was in, and suddenly, from a place where there was nothing, he heard a bass laugh. Soon after the laughter, a mysterious portal that resembled a wind funnel began to open with a noise. What seemed to be a golden bird's head began to poke out of the portal. It was only when the creature reached its full height that one could realize that it had a human form. With a mask that resembled a bird's skull and black wings, Uho-yeong was faced with a man holding a cane. He had probably never experienced so many shocks in his life at once as he did today. Frightened by the way it was waving its snake tail, the young man nevertheless dared to ask if it was a demon or something like that. The creature smiled with satisfaction as it recognized him. But Uho-yeong was confused because he was right and replied that the man just looked like one of them. Satisfied with the boy's behavior, the demon, feeling superior, raised his head high and confirmed Uho-yeong's words, majestically introducing himself as the demon of greed, which ordinary people call the mind-eater. Looking at the boy, he didn't hesitate and immediately offered to enter into a mysterious agreement. Hanging in the weightlessness of the void, the demon continued to wait for a positive response from Uho-yeong, not rushing him to make a choice. But the boy did not want to blindly agree to the contract without knowing the clauses that were included in it, so he first needed to explain what the demon meant and what kind of deal he was talking about. The supreme demon of greed agreed to clarify the details. So at the same time, out of nowhere, a purple sphere appeared in the creature's right hand and a green sphere in his left. The boy could exchange only two things with greed. The first was time, which glowed green and gave off a yellow sheen. The other was abilities that mysteriously shimmered in blue and purple tones. Looking at the magic he had never seen before, Uho-yeong waited patiently for the further explanation. To begin with, the demon decided to explain the details of time. The guy could go back at least 10 years and up to 23 years. This was quite interesting and surprising information for the young man. But there is a price to be paid for everything, the demon reminded him with flashing red eyes. After all, nothing in this world is given for free. So what is the price? Uho-yeong asked, not hiding his curiosity. Greed slowly stretched out his hand, pointing directly to the area where the boy's heart was located. If the young man wants to go back in time for 1 year, his life will also be shortened by the same amount, the demon summed up. This seemed impossible to the boy, because everyone knows that time travel is not real. Going back 23 years also meant that his life would have to be shortened by 23 years, the demon continued to explain, and after all, no one knows when and what they will die of. After hearing the first sentence, the guy laughed nervously, but with some confidence, as if he was up to something. He thought it was a fantastic balance of price for such a condition. As long as he could not fulfill his manly duties or go bald, it did not matter to him. Besides, people these days have enough knowledge and technology to easily live to be 100 years old, the young man explained to the demon. Uho-yeong was more than happy with this. But what terms of the contract were hidden in case he preferred abilities, the young man wondered. Then the demon mysteriously pointed to himself and briefly said that in that case the boy would receive his great power. But the boy did not fully understand what this demonic power was, what it could do. He added, out of greed, that this power would give Uho-yeong absolutely everything he ever wanted or would want. Looking down at the 2-meter-tall creature, the boy did not believe what he was hearing and asked him again what he meant. Just as I said, the demon added, not wanting to repeat himself, clenching his fist with a sphere that represented an ability. This power could turn other people's amazing talents into his own. Thinking about the choice, Uho-yeong hesitated for a long time. It was difficult to understand the nature of the ability just from the words someone said. To understand its capabilities, the young man would have to experience this power for himself. In any case, with this ability, he could get anything he wanted, right? After choosing what he thought he needed, the demon stretched his long arm toward Uho-yeong's face and began to cast magic. The bright light that greed emitted from his palm blinded the young man, and he even had to squint his eyes. To the boy, this contract seemed more like a charity than a bargain. If only he knew what he had signed up for. The satisfied demon still stood in front of the young man and smiled broadly. The demon of greed asked the last question he was interested in, how many years back in time the boy wanted to go. Hearing this question from greed, the boy was confused and stared at the creature. He could have chosen any period of time, but there was no chance to make a mistake. Finally deciding on the time range he was interested in, the young man laughed. The idea of the time he wanted to go back to seemed absurd. But if it was actually possible to do it, he would like to go back to. Sudden silence covered his mind, and when he opened his eyes, he was confused. He did not understand where he was, the situation around him changed from an endless emptiness to a home-like bright room. The same calendar was hanging on the wall, and the TV was broadcasting news. The news anchor was saying that the football player Park Ji-sung had decided to leave his team for Eintracht Frankfurt right in front of his audience. This was his home back when he lived with his parents. Uho-yeong succeeded, he really was able to go back in time. To make sure it was real, he checked the timbre of his voice by singing the letter as if he was at a doctor's appointment. He also waved a little and made fists with his palms, not feeling the strength he used to have after hard training. Now he has the body of a small child. Nothing has changed, everything is the same as it was 14 years ago. That unfortunate year of 2002. Uho-yeong was only 10 years old then. At that time, he was only in the 3rd grade of elementary school. With his little hands clenched into fists, the boy was happy to be back in the time when he had the opportunity to reach the heights he wanted. Behind Uho-yeong, he heard familiar voices. The sonorous one clearly belonged to a woman who was asking her husband to help her a little, to which he quickly agreed without any complaints. Everyone was busy preparing for dinner. It was already evening, the head of the family inadvertently emphasized to the woman. It was clearly a happy family. Looking at the busy relatives, the boy was very surprised at how young his parents looked now. The same luxurious table with a variety of dishes. The same family dinner. And the same question from his father about what little Uho-yeong wants to become in the future. Recalling past events, the boy remembers that his father sometimes asked him this question on similarly quiet evenings, but the answer never changed. "I want to become a football player," the boy would answer with the same fervor. The man smiled at his son, because the latter's voice had become louder when he answered this question, so this time he also expected nothing to change. Continuing to inquire about his son's desires, the father asked if he still wanted to be like his idol, Park Ji-soo. To his great surprise, boy said no, and he was curious what his son would say next. This time Uho-yeong surprised everyone by answering that he wanted to become much more amazing than his idol. He wanted to become the best in the world. Both his father and mother opened their mouths in amazement. That was the boy's wish, his dream. Uho-yeong had a chance to realize it. The parents were proud of their son and encouraged him. They believed that everything would be exactly as he wished. They were sure that one day Uho-yeong would grow up, play in the professional league and reach the desired heights on the big field. But no one knew that the demon of greed was behind it. He, with his razor-sharp scythe, followed the boy's life. Of course, now they were bound by a contract. "I'm 10 years old now," looking at his reflection, the boy thought as he pulled a cup of water to him. Picking up the cup, Uho-yeong took a few sips of the cold liquid and thought, because at that age he could do anything, now he was not limited by the responsibilities of an adult. After school, the boy could do anything until it was time for bed. He is still only in the 3rd grade. After finishing his water, Uho-yeong left the cup on the kitchen counter and asked his father, who was sitting nearby, to show him where Hypernova was. Turning to the shelf, the father took a soccer ball off the wooden rack and handed it to his son. It was the official ball from the 2002 World Cup match between Korea and Japan, and the name of the ball was Hypernova. For some reason, just one glance at this soccer ball was enough for Uho-yeong to make his heart skip a beat. Taking the ball from his father's hands, the boy happily went to the soccer field where he practiced different techniques of kicking it. Finally, he felt happy. When Uho-yeong was little, he wanted to grow up as fast as possible, these were typical thoughts of a child. But only when he became an adult did he realize that childhood was the best moment of his life. The time when he could pay attention to nothing but his favorite game. Standing far away from the center of the field, the boy propped the ball up with his foot so that it would not go anywhere. There was no one around, so he decided to test whether he really had those amazing powers by signing a contract with a sinister creature. Closing his eyes and concentrating on the right thoughts, many shining golden stripes began to gather in front of him. In amazement, the boy took a step back, staring at the unknown force with his mouth wide open. After the transformation was complete, a blue information window hung in the air, bearing the name of the owner and information about the talents he currently possessed. Looking closer at the window, Uho-yeong was upset. Unfortunately it informed him that he had no talents yet. This disappointed him greatly, because he believed with all his heart that he had at least some skills when he was younger, but to have none was cruel. Uho-yeong didn't come close to becoming a brilliant football player. With a complete lack of talent, he couldn't even be a ball boy. The frustrated boy wondered what he was doing with such opportunities, continuing to kick and simultaneously keep the ball in the air. When it hit the outer surface of his foot, it bounced to the side, so Uho-yeong had to walk after it to keep his training going. It took him some time to adapt to this small body. It would be nice to have players around to compete with and gain experience. Whistling, the boy twirled the ball in his hands. He was bored alone. But as if he heard Uho-yeong's wish from behind him, he was instantly called by name. A red-haired teenager stood with his shoulders wide open, holding the ball in his hand, near the entrance gate to the field. He was obviously not happy to see Uho-yeong and asked what he was doing on the field. After all, they hadn't really gotten along since childhood. "You don't even know how to play soccer," the rude teenager continued to say. Seeing him, Uho-yeong was shocked, and 10-year-old Yoon Jun-ho approached him. As soon as the boys caught up, Uho-yeong without greetings, immediately asked his opponent if he wanted to fight again, whenever they met. Even though the redhead looked older and taller against him, he didn't understand what was wrong with calling someone incapable of doing something. What else could he say? To further irritate the boy, Yoon Jun-ho turned to him and stuck out his tongue. Looking at this childish behavior, Uho-yeong clenched his fists, trying not to react to his opponent's attempts to provoke a conflict. When he completely calmed down, he relaxed his hand. This reaction impressed Yoon Jun-ho, making her wonder why he was so calm. Instead of hitting Yoon Jun-ho on the head, all he had to do was watch him calmly, he thought, with a wild expression like a predator hunting prey. After all, if your opponent has never seen a new reaction from you, he will always be confused. But Yoon Jun-ho stood there like a rock, waiting for at least some response to his words. Suddenly, though, as he continued to stare at his opponent, Uho-yeong wondered if his ability could reveal not only his own talent but also the talents of others. Focusing on Yoon Jun-ho, he tried to call up his skill and see some information. And he succeeded. 2 game windows popped up. The first icon contained information about the red-haired boy's talents, namely that Yoon Jun-ho was a Class B prodigy among children his age and had, surprisingly, Class C mid-range punching power. The second window displayed the conditions that would allow him to copy one talent from all of the others. At the moment, this condition was playing soccer for at least 1 hour with Yoon Jun-ho. The protagonist was excited, his expression changed from serious to pleased. He really saw the information about other people. With the amazing abilities that the demon had so kindly lent him, he could see not only his own talent, but anyone else he wished. The red-haired boy was very unhappy with the fact that he was not only ignored, but also stared at without hiding it. Although Yoon Jun-ho was not yet a football genius, it was still better than having no talent. So this was not what surprised the protagonist. He wanted to see if he could take the talent for himself if he could fulfill the conditions. Looking again at the information window, the guy kept on marveling at the devilish abilities that Mammon had given him. The demon of greed really amazed him with its capabilities. He didn't know what would happen after he fulfilled the conditions, but he decided to try his hand at it anyway. "Hey," he called out to Yoon Jun-ho, attracting attention. With the biggest smile on his face after the insults he had received, the protagonist offered to play soccer with him. Both boys were already on the field, so Yoon Jun-ho had no reason to refuse Uho-yeong. As time passed, Yoon Jun-ho skillfully kept the ball close to him, not giving a single chance to win. However, there were also rare moments when the protagonist had the ball, but the opponent took it away again, maneuvering like a snake in front of Uho-yeong. Having mocked the boy enough, the red-haired man scored a goal with all his might into the opponent's empty net. Deciding to take a break, Young-ho turned to Uho-yeong, propping the ball up with his foot, bored with wasting time with him, and refused to continue the game. It was a harsh criticism from the soccer prodigy, but it didn't matter to Uho-yeong. He was interested in something else. The conditions were met. Blue game windows appeared in front of the boy's face. Now Uho-yeong had the opportunity to copy Yoon Jun-ho's talent as much as he wanted. Wiping the sweat from his face, the happy boy did not waste time, so he chose the option that was higher. In the first stack was the talent, Class B Soccer Prodigy. The game window shone with golden light and rose above the boy's head, who was watching what would happen next. The inscription with the conditions began to change, and now a table hung in front of Ho-yeong, informing the owner that he had successfully copied the talent he had chosen. He managed to pull it off, and now he would not be the last on the list, and along with Yoon Jun-ho, he would continue to train to achieve his dreams. The information window continued to hang over Ho-yeong's head, informing the owner of his abilities. The boy was filled with joy, because he had finally acquired his first talent. With this ability, he would finally be on the same level of skill as Yoon Jun-ho. Of course, how much he can grow in the future is up to him, but at least he is confident that he has the ability to grow further. Yoon Jun-ho watched the boy, who kept looking right through him, not paying attention to anything, in displeasure. His emotions changed over and over again, making him even more annoyed. What he didn't know was that there were information windows around him that began to change positions over time. The window with the new information blocked the others that had already been read. They moved closer to the guy, just enough so that he could read them legibly. After all, there were new conditions for obtaining talent. Looking at it, Ho-yeong realized that copying a talent didn't mean that the other person's talent had to disappear, and that to get the ability, he didn't have to play with the opponent for an hour. The time to fulfill the condition decreased by 10 minutes. Perhaps the shortened time was due to the fact that the remaining talent was C-class, he thought. Meanwhile, Yoon Jun-ho was picking up the ball to finish the match and continue on his way. After all, he had nothing to do here. But Ho-yeong called out to Yoon Jun-ho, inviting him to play some more. Throwing his backpack over his shoulder, he refused, saying that Ho-yeong was really bad at the game. Besides, he had to go to soccer practice. But the boy didn't lose hope, and in order not to let Yoon Jun-ho go, he offered to play again, but this time he promised that he would buy him anything he wanted. But he was not interested at all and, with a hum, turned around and headed for the exit of the field, but as soon as Ho-yeong added that he would also buy his favorite chocolate, he changed his trajectory and turned to the boy, asking if it was true. At this, Ho-yeong just started smiling with satisfaction. He was glad that Yoon Jun-ho was still a child, so it was not a big deal to persuade him. Once they both agreed, they continued playing. After playing for a while, they decided to take a break. Ho-yeong was tired and drenched in sweat, and he was resting on the grass. In the background, Yoon Jun-ho was kicking a ball on his foot, because he was used to such a load and was not tired at all. Suddenly, a golden light shone in front of Ho-yeong again, which immediately caught his attention. The game window made it clear that the boy had fulfilled the condition of playing with Yoon Jun-ho for another 50 minutes. It then offered to copy the guy's other talent, Class C mid-range power. There were no other talents available, so he chose the one that was left. The choice was made, so immediately after the action was confirmed, the second talent appeared in Ho-yeong's status. There was nothing more to copy, so pretending to be unable to play anymore, he suggested that he should stop. So Yoon Jun-ho, adjusting his backpack on his shoulders, squinted his eyes and asked if it was really true, to which Ho-yeong remained silent. But after spending 2 hours together, Yoon Jun-ho seemed to soften and concluded that the boy's skills seemed to have improved a bit. This was his first praise. Looking down at his hands, Ho-yeong thanked Yoon Jun-ho, who was the only one who made him stronger. Not knowing what he was talking about, the opponent asked Ho-yeong what he meant. But the guy didn't want to reveal his cards, so he changed the subject and invited Yoon Jun-ho to come with him for a meal. As they left the soccer field, the red-haired boy asked him with suspicion if he had any money. He calmly replied that he had enough pocket money to fulfill his promise. Thanks to Yoon Jun-ho, he had gained talent, so he had to buy at least 300 won worth of tteokboks. Hearing this answer, Yoon Jun-ho asked if his parents would scold him because their family was poor and he was spending money so thoughtlessly. But Ho-yeong didn't like what he was told, furrowing his brows and looking very angry. Anyway, this Yoon Jun-ho was a bastard and had a terrible temper. He was going to buy him a tteokbok, and he managed to say something like that. Our hero stopped in disappointment. After digging a little in his backpack pocket, he waved his fist at Yoon Jun-ho without expressing any emotion. Stunned by such sudden movements, the boy involuntarily screamed, looking at the hand that stopped a few centimeters from his face. Opening his fist, he found a 101 coin in his palm. Uho-yeong didn't want to have anything to do with him anymore, so he decided to pay on the spot, calling him a punk. Yoon Jun-ho snatched the coin out of his hand and angrily yelled at him that he was a jerk. But he didn't care, he turned away and continued on his way home. Passing by the mirror-clear shop windows, Uho-yeong thought, it wasn't enough for him. Rubbing his chin, he calculated his actions for the future, because to hone his talents, he needed not only luck, but also hard work. There was a time when a video of a 5-year-old boy playing soccer went viral. This boy was even considered as a candidate for Manchester United. Unfortunately, the year the boy returned home, there were only work phones. YouTube hadn't been created yet, so he couldn't upload his video to the channel, but he still had a way to become famous. The sharp voices of the fans attracted the attention of a guy who was passing by a store with massive TVs in the window showing a football match. This was his way to get on the air. And for this, the broadcast on the then popular TVs was ideal. Initially, it was a program for youth development that was aired only during the World Cup. However, through this broadcast, more than 10 children got a chance to become professional players. One of them was Lee Kongchul, who was interested in the famous Spanish football club Valencia. It was a golden opportunity to instantly become a one-in-a-million star. So Uho-yeong decided to follow this path, despite the difficulties that might arise on his thorny path. This is the catalyst that ignited a fire in the hearts of young football players in Korea. The first youth development program in Korea. When he got home, Uho-yeong hurriedly dropped his backpack, leaving it in the hallway near his shoes, and went to find his family. His father was sitting in the living room, reading a book with interest, but as soon as he heard his son's voice, he jumped up and looked at him. Running to his father's side, the boy said that he wanted to take part in the reality show, Fly Shoot Dory. Even his mother came running to hear this announcement, clearly wondering what her son was talking about, because neither of the parents had heard of the show. It was a youth club development program, where preschool children trained and played on camera, accompanied by managers and world-famous coaches, of course. Grabbing the embarrassed family members by the hands, Uho-yeong led them to the computer. With his nimble little fingers, he quickly typed in the name of the show and showed them information about it. It hadn't been on the air for long since it first aired this year, so it wasn't that well known. It was expected that his parents didn't know about it. The monitor showed the date of the audition, which started on September 3rd, with the goal of creating a new football team. But this time, the age group was different from the last time the show was held. Children between the ages of 8 and 10 could take advantage of this chance, so Uho-yeong was very lucky. His father was talking to his mother, adjusting his glasses, but, the boy thought, they needed time to think things over, but he could speed up the process. Flipping through the article, the boy emphasized that tomorrow the coach of the Fly Shoot Dory football club and, along with him, the active singer Kim Jong-kook, who led the Turbo Group, would be participating. At their son's words, the parents looked around listening to the information, and then Uho-yeong took both of their hands and said with a glow in his eyes that he really wanted to be on the show. The happy parents laughed to see their son's eagerness to take action, which would be his first step in achieving his dream. Thanks to the boy, the mother felt incredibly energized today, and the father, praising his son, said that if he still wants to do it, of course, they will support him and do their best to help. After a long family conversation, night fell quickly enough, the moon illuminating the tops of the houses and peering into every dark alley. Time passed, the guy was looking forward to this event, and finally, the day of the audition came, September 3rd, Saturday. Here came the long-awaited day, Saturday, the 3rd of September. The weather outside was beautiful and sunny. The rays of the sun illuminated the people who arrived at the stadium. It was the training ground of the Korean Football Association. The main NFC. In special places, the organizers erected long tents to comfortably seat the referees. In the tent, serious conversations were going on regarding the selection. A middle-aged man said, since the referees only need to select 8 to 10 people from all the registrations submitted, it would be wise to spread out the time given to them. He suggested focusing on the children who were selected yesterday to begin with. However, the guy sitting next to him was trying to get justice. He questioned the man, did the man not consider the skills of the other children at all? That guy was Kim Jong-kook, a singer and dory shooting coach. He didn't try to start a conflict and so he sat quietly smiling. The man turned out to be video director Choi Hyun-jae. He justified his words with a concept he had long held on to, challenging outsiders or something like that. It only included those who were good enough to attract attention. Others he was not, for now, going to consider. After finishing explaining his behavior, the man asked Jong-kook if he was going to test some of the kids who came today. To this, the document-busy guy confirmed the man's words with a good-natured smile. His sunglasses glinted in the sunlight as the man turned to the guy and poked him right in the nose, saying that this was a very responsible matter. They were going to use the selection of children for a promotional video, so they needed to make sure it would be interesting. However, that didn't mean he had to watch it too closely. Then the good-natured guy, continuing to smile, suggested, try to all work together and make the video at its best. The proud video director replied that he would see how it went and sat back in his chair. There were a dozen children who had gathered to try their luck, boys and girls alike, and Uho-yeong was among them. Would there be someone to watch? Another contender made a respectful bow showing gratitude for the opportunity to perform. One shy child, 2 playful, 1 polite, 1 girl, 2 cute children, and 1 handsome boy, such a number and variety of applicants was enough for the video director. However, the next in line to perform was Uho-yeong. The boy started off by politely saying hello and saying that he was eager to work with the company. The boy's eyes glistened, thanks to this opportunity, he would have a chance to fulfill his dreams. Well, the boy was overflowing with confidence, but that was it, Choi Hyun-jae thought as he checked the boy's name against the submitted documents. Uho-yeong seemed to him not very good himself, and the 3rd year of school is not the right age to attract attention with cuteness. Also, on top of that, no great achievements or outstanding honors. However, Uho-yeong was not the least bit nervous, and continued to stand proudly in front of the crowd on the field. To the video director, there was nothing about him that could become a hot topic, and it didn't matter whether he could see it or not. Resting his chin on his hands, he did ask for the sake of appearances if the boy liked soccer. To such a question, Uho-yeong with a sincere smile lightning fast replied that he liked it with all his soul. Laughing at his enthusiasm, Hyun-jae asked what the boy wanted to show if he was so confident. Running to the net with balls, the boy took one and returned to his seat. Apologizing for the weight, the kid put the ball in front of him. However, the man asked for something else. He wanted Uho-yeong to show something other than soccer. His special skills. Raising his eyes to the referees, the guy was not embarrassed by such a request. This was his special skill. The judges were confused as they looked at the boy who awkwardly scratched the back of his head. But still he was given the go-ahead to show what he had prepared. On a roll, Uho-yeong picked up the ball on his foot and pounded the ball, periodically changing his foot. He did it quickly and confidently as if he had been playing soccer all his life. The judges did not expect this from a 10-year-old and watched the boy's actions with open mouths. The ball jumped from his foot to his knee, repeating the same motion. Uho-yeong made him stay in the air all the time. The normal movements changed to professional ones at the same speed as the body part being used for this changed. Hyun-jae couldn't believe his eyes, he didn't expect anything from the boy. At this time, all the other judges applauded enthusiastically. The last thing the boy piled on was the head. To the surprise of the audience, the ball did not fall once, although this trick is hard and wants to repeat some adults. The crowd of onlookers shouted in amazement, constantly saying, "This guy must have been practicing for a long time, he is a talent," and much more. What Uho-yeong had prepared was not just a personal skill. It was a skill he had acquired over the past month. The boy practiced hard every day coming to the soccer field. He had been practicing this trick for weeks to shine at the selection. Until his body was wet with sweat, he practiced with the ball, all for the sake of his future. Can you call that combining the soccer skills of a 24-year-old with the talent of a soccer prodigy? Probably yes. After stopping the ball, Uho-yeong pinned it to the ground with his foot, ending the show. Jungkook asked the video director if it looked like a soccer prodigy was standing in front of them. To this, the man agreed with what he said, but emphasizing that they needed to watch a little more. Jungkook asked if the boy was ready and confident enough to take the real test. To this, Uho-yeong confidently said yes. When the judge came out from behind the table, he explained what was going on. Uho-yeong would try to take the ball away, and Jungkook would play the role of a defender. For the boy, the main thing was to score a single goal. Leaning over to the boy, Jungkook asked the youngster one last time what he thought, would he be able to handle it? The answer remained unchanged. Taking up his positions, the boy didn't worry about anything. Even if Uho-yeong couldn't score a goal, he wouldn't be disqualified. This wasn't a skill assessment, they were just shooting a video to make a commercial. Taking the ball to himself, Uho-yeong started attacking the guy. Jungkook didn't take the game seriously, even wanting to go easy on him so as not to upset the boy. That was his mistake. The boy instantly bypassed the older man, leaving him behind him to breathe in the dust. The boy had no time to even realize what had happened. Uho-yeong was even more than a prodigy. The ball was in the goal in a split second. The test was successful. The guy was shocked by the boy's mastery of the ball. No one had ever shown such a thing during the day's selection. A satisfied Uho-yeong grinned his teeth and waited for the verdict. Taking a new ball from the basket, the guy passed it to the boy. He was capable of more than just juggling. Why not test the boy again, Jungkook suggested. This time he was ready to meet him properly. For Jungkook, Uho-yeong was really interesting. He needed to defend himself properly this time, and not just because it was against an elementary school student. Standing up in a stance, an ominous aura could be felt from the boy, screaming to attack him. He himself already wanted to check if the boy was a miracle or not. Uho-yeong once again gained full possession of the ball and doing rolls. He side-to-side maneuvered in front of Jungkook, misleading him where the kick would go. The lad kept a close eye on the boy, not giving him a chance to get around him, but he wriggled as best he could. A sudden swing at the ball from an unexpected position seemed like a bad decision, but it wasn't. A precise kick and Uho-yeong launched a spinning ball straight into the goal, flying around a confused Jungkook who thought the ball was going to hit him in the face. No one expected this, everyone was at a loss. Judges, spectators, cameramen, all arrived in a kind of shock from the boy while gaping at the game. A moment of silence and then all the stands exclaimed, "Goal!" Jungkook froze in shock. Uho-yeong was really amazing. He realized that he wouldn't be able to match Hen's strength, so he decided to make a mental game of scoring from a distance. It was an amazing decision that seemed to surprise even Uho-yeong. Moreover, it was quite a powerful strike from the middle distance, thought Jungkook approaching the boy. He no longer needed to test Uho-yeong in any way, everything was crystal clear to him. Turning around to face the referees, the young boy smiled. He really was good at soccer. With joy, the boy thought he would jump, because he had managed to pull it off even though he doubted it. When the selection was over, Uho-yeong headed down the alley toward home. Judging by the reaction of the production team, he should pass. All his hard work had finally paid off. A start had been made, and now, if he could perform well on the broadcast, becoming famous in the blink of an eye wouldn't be just a dream. Dreaming of the future, Uho-yeong was already imagining how famous teams would probably fight for him. Then he would be just like Lee Kong-kol. The representative of the best shoot Dory result ever made was Lee Kong-kol. With his stunning skills, he met the expectations of soccer fans across the country and became a star in the world of football. With such a chance, he would join the prestigious Valencia Soccer Club of Spain, who were on their way to the elite. Uho-yeong was already thinking about who he would join in the future. Maybe Valencia, but he also wanted to join Barcelona or maybe even Madrid. Either way, he still needed time. Suddenly a stomping of feet was heard behind him, followed by the boy's request to stop for a moment. Turning around at the sudden exclamation, the young boy and saw Jungkook rushing after him. He ran fast, trying to catch up to the show's challenger as quickly as possible. The young man asked by name why the singer was running after him. With a smile on his face, Jungkook asked in surprise how Uho-yeong knew him. The boy quickly replied that he had once seen him on a music show. Hearing this, Jungkook got down on one knee to match the boy's height, and laughing back at him, admitted that he was really good at soccer. After saying that, he held out his fist in a friendly manner, waiting for a response. Excited by the compliment from the star, he swiftly bumped his little fist in response to the congratulations. To the singer, this boy seemed to be a miracle. Just a genius find. Letting go of Uho-yeong's hand, he asked if Hen would also participate in this program. Putting his hand on his chest, Jungkook nodded approvingly, and explained that his brother Hen stepping into the director's seat. That's when the boy realized what Hen was doing in this project. Uho-yeong's name was heard in the distance, interrupting their conversation. His parents came out to meet their boy. He was quite surprised by this, however, as he didn't expect to be greeted. As soon as the parents got close enough, the boy's father introduced himself, and Jungkook responded with a respectful bow and greeted the couple. The perpetually cheerful boy was even a little shy as soon as he saw the talent's parents. Having corrected his glasses, the father asked the boy if he was a celebrity, where he had seen him before. At her husband's words, the mother gasped, indeed his face was familiar. It's Kim Young-guk-hyun, the boy shouted to the street, proud of his familiarity. He was also called Lura the White Cat. His father was embarrassed by this statement, and his mother clapped her fist in the palm of her hand, exclaiming, "That's right." The father apologized for not being able to recognize the celebrity, but the boy just waved it off, saying that it was no big deal. After finishing his greetings, Jungkook immediately began to praise the boy. Uho-yeong appeared in front of the judges in the best form. He really had a great possession of the ball. Proud of his son, the father thanked the boy. Despite being his son, watching him was always amazing for the man. To this, Jungkook suggested sending such a talented son straight overseas. Even though the two had just met, but they immediately managed to find common ground, Uho-yeong wondered silently watching the situation. Time was running out, Jungkook had to return to the court. In any case, he hoped that the boy would have great results. For all the warm words, the parents thanked the boy and wished him a good journey, to which he reciprocated. Before he left, Jungkook wished Uho-yeong a fight, which locally meant wishing him good luck. To this, the joyful boy wished him mutual good luck. Sudden sparks began to gather in front of the boy, causing him to marvel. For the first time in a long time, the game windows again appeared before Uho-yeong's eyes. 2 new windows read about Jungkook's talents. The sculpted muscles and delicate vocals of a C-grade ballad singer. If the condition could be met, the boy would be able to copy one of them. To pull this off, Uho-yeong will have to train with the star for at least an hour to activate the condition. Uho-yeong looked at the notices with disgust. The talents listed had nothing to do with soccer and did not interest him in any way. However, the boy called out to the departing Jungkook, forcing him to wait for the running boy. Could you recommend some protein supplements? Uho-yeong asked, attracting his interest. As a pop star, Jungkook was interested in the topic. However, the cheerful guy warned the boy that he was too young to start drinking supplements, but it was not unreasonable to know about it. Then the singer offered to share the knowledge gained over the years. Uho-yeong was happy with the result. It seemed he was really able to interest Jungkook. The boy had heard that it was a favorite phrase of fitness enthusiasts, and it seemed to be true. Taking advantage of the situation, the young boy asked if it was possible to also teach some exercises. Good acquaintances come in handy everywhere. The information window continued to follow Uho-yeong, reminding him of the conditions of copying the talent. Agreeing with Jungkook, the boy followed the singer to the soccer field. In the referee's tent were the boy's belongings. Walking over to his bag, he handed the young man his bottle of liquid. Tasting the protein supplements, the boy liked them. He listened attentively to the guy, who non-stop explained the composition of the liquid, the norm for the day and the companies that had proven themselves the best. There were no more people on the playground, so Jungkook suggested a little exercise. Exercises were replaced one after another. The guy told where and what muscles were involved and what muscles are better to train soccer players. Having finished with the warm-up, the guy offered the boy to run with him, so he controlled the pace, breathing and tested Uho-yeong's endurance. After they finished their training, they also decided to spar, who would be the first to kick the ball into the goal. No one minded, so they were having a pretty good time. After taking a break, Jungkook went to get a bottle of water to restore his water balance. Well, the time was passing quickly enough and it felt like it was time to fulfill the condition. A few minutes later, a blue window appeared behind Jungkook's back, announcing that the boy could choose one of the talents presented. Of course he didn't need a vocal talent, so naturally he favored sculpting muscles. Where was a soccer player to use a soft singing voice anyway? There was no need to doubt the choice, so the protagonist clicked on the desired slot of the answer. Text in the window was instantly transformed. Now to the soccer prodigy and a powerful punch were added muscles. After confirming the selection, the boy immediately felt the muscles getting stronger. It wasn't what the soccer player really needed, but it could be of use to him. An hour later, the parents returned for their son. The grateful father could not find words to thank Jungkook for taking the time to train with Uho-yeong. However, the guy himself liked to train with the boy. On this day he had no schedule, so he just did exercises. Jungkook thought this time was special. Although he loved children, this was the first time for him that a young child showed interest in health and fitness. After saying goodbye to the star, Uho-yeong along with his parents joyfully went home to wait for the results. 2 weeks later on the same sunny day, the phone rang loudly in the apartment. At first, the calm head of the family answered it, and later, his father's face broke out into a smile, constantly shouting, "Yes." After hanging up the phone, the man ran over to the boy who was sitting in the living room and lifted him off the ground. They were able to do that. Poor Uho-yeong was spun around in a dance and congratulated on the result. The boy's head was spinning furiously from the free flight, destroying his vestibular apparatus. However, the joyful father did not stop and continued to congratulate the confused young boy. Asked to stop the merry-go-round of unknown generosity, Uho-yeong found himself on the ground. After regaining his composure, the boy asked his father if MBS had called and chosen him for the Dory shoot. The answer was, of course, yes. The boy's face shone in the rays of a smile, and his eyes overflowed with joy. September 16th of the year 2002. This was the moment when Uho-yeong's name proudly appeared among the members of Team Dory. Bouncing in place, the boy kept shrieking that he had passed this difficult selection. The overjoyed father distracted his busy wife by asking her to come over. Their son had been selected to participate. The surprised mother congratulated her son and rejoiced with him. The company even paid a performance fee. Isn't that happiness? At this rate, Uho-yeong could become a celebrity, his father repeated, to which his mother suggested that soon the fans would create a fan club and start receiving requests for advertising. But Uho-yeong just wanted to be a soccer player. The boy knew he would be chosen, but still something inside trembled. This was his first feat since returning to the past. He would make his first television appearance and become part of the main roster. In a way, the protagonist was proud of himself. This time he would not miss any opportunity to become more famous. He must definitely succeed. Leaving his happy parents behind, the boy went to rummage through his bag. Whatever happens, as long as he can take the opportunity to showcase his skills to the world, everything will be fine. Fan clubs and publicity didn't matter to him, he only had one goal. Taking the ball out of his briefcase, he looked at it. Soccer was paramount. Closing his eyes, he imagined the field around which there were stands crowded with spectators cheering for their favorite player. That player was Uho-yeong, a mature and successful soccer player. Wembley, Old Trafford, Camp Nou, Santiago Bernabeu, all invited him to play in these famous stadiums. Uho-yeong had set his sights on climbing to the very top of soccer. He packed his bags, said goodbye to his parents and rushed off to the game. In any case, skills were more important than the broadcast. Every football fan has dreamed of becoming Messi or Ronaldo, but Uho-yeong could not only dream about it, but also do it. He thought he could make a hat trick, but when the young man actually played soccer his body didn't follow his thoughts. The reason for this was simple, it was because of his lack of basic skills. After getting to the soccer field the boys started practicing with the ball. One of the basic skills was juggling. The key is to kick the ball with the toe of your foot without letting it touch the ground. This is a foot movement that required a lot of time, concentration and most importantly, practice. Even soccer god Diego Maradona used to take these little steps. Step by step, slowly but surely Uho-yeong continued to kick the ball. Even though he was panting from fatigue, he was not exhausted and kept practicing. He felt that with every ball he kicked, his skills were only getting better. To improve one's skills unimaginably fast is truly the talent of a prodigy. To realize his dream, he had to put in 100 times more effort than planned. During the day, Uho-yeong went to the court to work on his stamina, running one lap after another. Soccer is mainly a battle of endurance. The better it is developed, the better the chances of winning. No matter how excellent your tactics are or how strong a person is, without fundamental stamina they are useless. However, if you overdo it, it won't get any better either. Gasping for oxygen, the guy collapsed on the grass with loud breathing, grabbing the air with his lips. This time his result improved, he was able to run as many as 8 laps. That's a little over 3 kilometers. Shading the sun with his hand, Uho-yeong watched the clouds. "Shoot Dory," muttered the boy with loud breathing. He was going to win this show. After passing the audition, Uho-yeong was determined to succeed. He made a personal schedule for himself. He went to bed early every night. He also got up very early. He woke up at 6 a.m. sharp and did 30 minutes of stretching every day to improve his flexibility. He was once 170 centimeters tall, but he was sure he could reach 180 if he took care of himself. After school, Uho-yeong practiced soccer on the field to improve his skills. He ate healthy food and exercised regularly. Every day he repeated this routine, developing a habit out of it. Day after day he had the same routine behind schedule until his preparation time was over. Before the boy knew it, the long-awaited day to make himself known, the dory shoot, had arrived. The shutter of the journalists' cameras clicked loudly and dazzled with flashes. 10 selected children were lined up in 2 rows, forcing them to pose for the news cover. Uho-yeong was in the spotlight for the first time, feeling the pressure of the audience and a little nervous. After shooting a few dozen shots, one guy from the team came up to ask about the boy's condition, because he was clearly nervous. But the young man sharply denied everything. It was the first evaluation match that was about to begin, he had waited too long for this moment to be afraid of the audience. Their match was against Cha Bum-keun's soccer academy, who acted as the Goliath of Korean soccer. Before any competition, it is necessary to warm up, so now the kids were preparing to show their best against their opponents. Not far from the kids stood coach that watched their actions. The video director, who came out of nowhere, called out to the coach for some conversation. Hang Jae asked the man to show the kids no mercy, he wanted a complete rout, even if it meant a 20-0 victory. He demanded that the Shoot Dory team be defeated and feel defeated. The video director's glasses glinted in the sun, he was definitely up to something. After all, the soccer academy Cha Bum-keun, the best in the country, was up against Dory. If the kids lost dry, their hearts would be broken with resentment, which would touch the heartstrings of the spectators and make them sympathize with them. However, with constant practice and effort, they will eventually be able to win. This will show what a marvelous opportunity the project is giving to children, making them winners. If this little kid can do that, it will be the perfect ending, thought Hyun Jae as he looked at Uho-yeong. He had clearly impressed him at the selection. The way the boy was able to beat Jungkook by scoring with a spinning ball made the commercial a hit. There were even rumors that Kim Jong-kook saw it coming. Well, Hyun Jae decided to focus on the kid in this match. Perhaps this boy's beautiful goal will be an amazing sight, the video director thought, but it seemed unbelievable to him. No matter how talented he is, soccer is a team game. Their opponents were the elite team from the Cha Bam Kun Academy Soccer Club. The man continued his musings while looking at the boys who were fooling around and the girl who was quietly brushing her hair. Uho-yeong was the only one from his team who was warming up, but even if he performed alone, it wouldn't be enough. "Isn't the man overestimating the boy too much?" sighed Hen Jae. The guy from the prep team informed the video director that everything was ready to start. That was great news. It was about time it was done. Both teams gathered at the white line facing each other. The referee, who was positioned on the side, asked to greet the opponents with a handshake. A crowd of spectators cheered in the stands, each shouting out the name of their child or sibling. As the show began, two commentators welcomed their viewers and announced that they were watching the Children's Battle of the Titans, which was being held at the Yongin City Football Center in the 3rd Stadium. The Shoot-Dori soccer team, founded to dominate the national children's soccer teams, will soon play their first match. Their opponents were an experienced team of players from Cha Bum. Choi Song-dong continued to comment on the happenings. His words were echoed by comedian Kim Ben-jin, who summarized that this match would be tough. Choi Seon continued his speech, saying that this is the kids' first introductory match, so a good opportunity to get a feel for the game. Even if the team loses, they can still learn a lot from the opponents who are true masters of soccer. The referee called the team captains over to decide the right to play the ball. Flipping a coin, they waited to see which side it would fall on. The result said that Shoot-Dori would start first, to which the captain was delighted. Hearing the result, all the children cheered him on. This gave them the upper hand in the game. The audience favored this reaction of the kids, calling them adorable. However, the game had to continue. The referee blew the whistle to start the game. It was a match no one would forget. The Shoot-Dori team played the ball with a swiftness that started the show. Does anyone expect much from a child's game? Once the ball hit Uho-yeong, the fate was sealed. Most of the time, adults just expect to see cute clumsily playing children. However, that is exactly why it is so special. The show was created to change the minds of parents. Putting his best effort into his shot, Uho-yeong sent the ball flying. The curved ball whistled past all the defenders and straight into the opponent's goal, causing them to freeze with their mouths open. Even the goalkeeper couldn't move. Realizing that it was too late, he just stared at the ball behind him. Not more than a minute had passed since the start of the game, but the result was astonishing. Even the commentators were surprised enough to say nothing. The surprised crowd began to slowly recover from their shock, shouting, "What was that amazing kick from the halfway line?" Uho-yeong made it just seconds after the match had started. The boy was clearly confident, so he was quickly able to attract attention with his feint. Even Hyun Jae scratched his chin in confusion, muttering a single phrase, "That's how it is." A guy standing next to him asked the video director if he was okay, but he didn't even know what to say, he was so surprised by this little boy. However, at this time, Uho-yeong was heading somewhere to the side. Not only his team, but also his opponents did not understand where he was going. But the young man did not slow down, he could hear what was being said behind him, and his goal was to surprise them. Hyun Jae could not miss such shots, so he shouted to the crew not to let the boy out of the frame. The boy took a running start and jumped into the air with a loud shout. He is not just talented, but also an expert at celebrating victories. From this point on, Uho-yeong was going to steal Ronaldo's future goal celebrations.